Hello, and welcome back to another video. If you're looking for recommendations on what manhwa to read, then here are some that I've read recently that might be of interest. Manhwa titles are timestamped in the video for your convenience. Our first manhwa for today is the novel's Extra, and to be more specific, its 2022 rendition. It's a reincarnation manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 99 on. Its main character is Kim Ha-jin, an author who through some event ends up reincarnating into his own novel that he wrote but didn't actually finish. To put even more of a spin on it, he reincarnated as an extra with the same name, Kim Ha-jin. Now having to go through his own story as an extra, will Ha-jin be able to survive, as the novel he wrote had quite a number of gaps and wasn't the most well written, considering his own stance on the matter too. Will he be able to make it out of this world? The story is 9 out of 10. With the author reincarnating into his own novel, which he understands isn't perfect, it brings another perspective other than just knowing the overall plot and characters. Ha-jin understands the inner workings of the characters and can recall the events quite clearly. Although, because it's unfinished, the story elements for it to be finished are still up in the air, and Ha-jin might just be able to affect it. The characters are 8 out of 10. Similar to other reincarnating into a novel manhwas that I've covered on this channel, Ha-jin will find himself confronted by the characters he created, but no longer confined within the boundaries of his novel. They will react based off of the personalities that they are based off of, but it's its own breathing world. Ha-jin has his own troubles as he has to come to realize this fact. The art is 8 out of 10. With a fantasy setting mixed with a futuristic vibe to it, the illustration provides the interesting story a good backdrop to work with. Although in some cases, you may find yourself scratching your head on how Ha-jin is illustrated. So if you're looking for reincarnating into a novel manhwa and having the author himself be the one reincarnating into his own yet unfinished novel, and this sounds interesting to you, then the novel's Extra would be one to seek out reading. This next manhwa to look over is Philomel the Fake, a fantasy manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 56 on. Its protagonist, of course by the title, is Philomel, a daughter of a noble household. One day, while reading a certain book, she notices that the book was seemingly laying out future events. She didn't believe it at first, like any sensible person would, but the events that the book went over started happening in real life as well. Now convinced that the book was telling the events of the current life she's living, she now knows that she is a fake daughter that was swapped at birth and feels like she doesn't belong anywhere. With this new information, she plans ahead and looks to set things right and be on her way, with hopefully no repercussions. The story is 8 out of 10. An interesting take on knowing the future trope that other manhwas usually achieve through reincarnation or regression. Having our main character read a book while they're living that life is intriguing. Now that Philomel has to live with the facts laid out in the book, things get quite confusing for her. All she knows is that she's on her own sadly, and the plot does no favors. The characters are 9 out of 10. While I have laid out that Philomel is in quite a sad predicament, the story isn't all there is to life. Her changing demeanor and attitude affect those around her more than she thinks. Of course, like any of the main characters for this type of manhwa, she's dense about it and is sure that the foretelling of events is to be true, even though it might be deviating. The art is also 9 out of 10. From its illustration of the characters, the expression on their faces in various situations, to the subtle atmosphere shifts from one scene to the next, this manhwa portrays the underlying tension in the mood so well that it enhances the overall experience. So if you're looking for a fantasy manhwa that has the main character know the future through more intriguing means and what actions she may have because of it, knowing that she's not who she thought she was, then Philomel the Fake would be a good one to start looking at. I Became the Mother of the Evil Male Lead is our next manhwa to go over. It's a reincarnation manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 57 on. Cheryl is the name of its main character, and she is a character from a novel, specifically one, from the title of course, that is the mother of the evil male lead. This version of Cheryl, though, is a reincarnated person who wants to treat her son better. Her drive to ensure that her son's childhood is a happy one to prevent future misfortunes is remarkable. Now, having to live this new life that she read in a novel, the new Cheryl will have to navigate the delicate yet difficult familial situation she now finds herself in. Will she be able to make any ground, or is the already broken and tenuous relationship too difficult? The story is 6 out of 10. A more tame story compared to some other reincarnating into a novel manhwa that I've covered previously on this channel. The revealed plot so far isn't anything special. It mostly serves to explain the circumstances of how the original Sheriel and her family got to where they are now from my synopsis. I do hope it develops more in the future, as I have enjoyed some aspects of this initial setup. The characters are also 6 out of 10. With the main characters already shown early on, the focus has been on Sheriel, her husband, and her son. Albeit with a very estranged relationship, the growth that all of them go through to become a family is touching, but in my opinion needs something more to continue that development. The art is 8 out of 10, providing cute illustrations that offer a sense of regret, wanting, and courage to grow. The art beautifully shows the journey that Sheriel's family is going through to become an overall happy family. So if you're a fan of the reincarnating into a novel genre, specifically those of a caring mother trying to regret past wrongs, similar to I'll Raise You Well in This Life, Your Majesty, or A Simple Guide to Surviving as a Stepmom from my previous videos, then I Became the Mother of the Evil Male Lead is worth a try for you. Our next manhwa to go over is Children of the Rune, the fantasy manhwa that I've currently read up to chapter 29 on. The focus of this manhwa is on Boris, the youngest son of a noble household in a fantasy world. This family protects a pair of artifacts, specifically an armor and sword. Due to machinations of his jealous uncle, Boris's family ends up being engrossed in a scheme that causes their whole family to collapse, and with it, Boris is left to fend for himself. No longer is he a sheltered young master of a noble household. Instead, he's a lonely and distraught child that now has to navigate the world by himself, with only keepsakes of his family with him. What does his future hold? The potential is 7 out of 10. With going through such a traumatic experience, Boris will have to steel himself to be ready for the world around him. Tragedy does not leave any room for Boris to heal and process. He is merely left to his own devices. This openness after the introduction provides a blank slate for Boris's character, but also leaves you pitying his situation. The art is 7 out of 10 as well. The loss and struggle of Boris from its introduction is well depicted. It truly shows the traumatic despair that Boris feels with every step he takes towards this forced future. Will he wallow only in sadness, or will he be able to pick himself up and make something of himself? So if you're a fan of following up-and-coming stories that seem to have potential, specifically those with a fantasy world but with a tragic introduction for the main character, then Children of the Rune may just interest you. Welcome to the highlight portion of today's video as we look at how one of the manhwas mentioned in the previous video is doing as I've continued reading it. Slight spoiler warning as we will be discussing the events of the manhwa since my previous opinion. Today's highlight is the Apothecary Prince, aka the Crown Prince that sells medicine from my previous videos, which I've now read up to chapter 52 on. Info card in description will have links to my original opinion. Our resident fantasy doctor Lakiel, previously Rakiel, has been busy trying to survive this new life as the Crown Prince, from getting caught up in Minotaur schemes to providing care to the people of his kingdom and even having to treat VIPs. Lakiel doesn't have a lot of downtime from the situation he's put in. His organs, though, are slowly waking up and providing their own opinions about the people and strenuous activities that Lakiel is putting himself through. With how his journey has been, will he be able to successfully achieve enough to cure himself? My previous scores for this manhwa were 7 out of 10 for potential and art. This potential translates to a 5 out of 10 for story, as the pacing is all over the place for this manhwa. While I do see an overall direction that the manhwa is going to, it doesn't get there in a reasonable amount of time in my opinion. It ends up dragging itself along a lot of the time. Considering the author and what could be there, I hope it does get better. The characters, on the other hand, gets translated to 7 out of 10, as the characters that interact and surround Lakiel, in addition to the organ characters that are increasing as he continues his journey, all provide the necessary ingredients for a comedic time. The art stays the same at 7 out of 10 as the illustration of said characters plus the situations they find themselves in, mixed with the alternative art style that draws inspiration from the author's, not the artist to be specific, other work, shows off the strength of its medical and comedy portions. As I've continued reading it, I find the Apothecary Prince to be enjoyable for those that enjoy the medical genre of manhwas. Think the Divine Surgeon from my previous videos, but with more of a fantasy spin on it. I'll continue reading it at least just for that and its comedy. Would you agree, or would you not? Comment down below your thoughts on the Apothecary Prince. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Write in the comment section down below what manhwa you've been reading and I might just take a look. Till next time though, have a good read.